Hey everyone, welcome back. So today I wanted to teach you guys how to take a regular t-shirt and upcycle it into a tank top like this one. I recently thrifted this shirt because I thought it was so cute and I thought it would look even cuter as a tank top. So a couple things with that. I'm going to be using mostly my serger, this one right here for this project. If you do not have a serger, that's totally fine. You can just use a zigzag stitch or stretch stitch with your regular machine. Also, I will be using a different material that I have for like the bands. If you don't have that, you can go ahead and go buy some. You just need something stretchy, or you can use leftover material from the t-shirt if it's stretchy enough. And I'll kind of talk about that a little bit more. But if you are wanting to get some different material for the bands, anything stretchy will do. The stretchier the better, but not like super thin and flimsy. So this is what I'll be using here. As you can see, it's pretty stretchy. You can see the little ribs in there. So that's what you kind of want to use. You want something a little bit sturdy, not too flimsy, but not too thick. Happy medium. Also, I'll be using my electric scissors to cut up my t-shirt. If you do not have electric scissors, regular scissors will work, but if you do want one of these, they're amazing. I'll have them linked below. All right, let's get to it. Okay, before you start to cut into anything, you kind of want to map out what your shirt's going to look like. So take your pattern piece, like if you have a paper pattern, and lay it on top of your shirt. Figure out where things are going to end up. If you have a design on the shirt, you want to make sure that design is going to be where you want it to be, and just kind of check things out. So I'm going to be using my projector pattern for this. Like I said, if you have a paper pattern, you can go ahead and use that. So I'm going to grab my t-shirt and fold it in half and just kind of lay it there to see where things kind of fall, if I have enough fabric, where I want my length to be, just kind of things like that before we cut into the shirt. Okay, so for the length, I'm going to be using the hem of the t-shirt that's already there. So when I'm looking for, like, if we're going to be cutting like this length here, we're going to want to cut it about a ½ inch shorter than that cut line, just because we aren't going to be hemming since we're already using that hem. This is just a little pro tip. What I do when I'm upcycling, I use the hem of the item already. But when you're doing a shirt that has a design kind of like this, you are more worried about where that design is going to end up, and less worried about using the hem. So in this case, I would want my design to end up somewhere around here below my neck band. So you want to make sure that you have enough fabric for the top here, and also you're not going to be able to use that hem. In a shirt like this one where there is a design, but the design doesn't really need to be in any specific area, then you could use that hem trick where you could cut the shirt to be about a ½ inch shorter than the suggested cut line, and you reuse that hem if you have a shirt with a design like this. So now that we have a game plan, we're going to start to cut up our t-shirt. I usually just cut up all of the sewn seams. So I start off with the sleeves and just cut those off, and then just cut up the sides, and then cut the shoulder seams. Sometimes I like to use the neck bands with my upcycles. So if you're wanting to use your neck bands, don't cut up the side. I would unstitch it first all the way around, and then that way we are able to have more of it to upcycle. Okay, so now grab the front piece of your t-shirt. You're going to fold it in half, since we're going to be cutting off fold, and lay it down on your pattern piece. Sometimes the length is a little hard to figure out where I want it to land, so I use a t-shirt or a shirt or whatever it is that I like the length of, and I kind of use that as a guide. So I kind of lay it here where my pattern piece is and match things up a little bit, and then I can find where I like that length to fall. This is just another little tip you can use when you're trying to figure out how you want things to look. Okay, so now that I know where everything is and where I want things to end up, I'm gonna start to cut out. I have the front of my t-shirt piece folded in half and laid where I want it to be. Okay, so now that we're good, I'm gonna start cutting it out. This pattern gives you an option to do like a high or a low cut front part, so just remember which one you're cutting, because you'll need to cut the correct neckband for it. So now that we're done, we're going to do the same thing with the back piece, making sure that we're cutting the same length as we did to the front. Okay, so now for the neck and armbands. If I have enough material left over from my t-shirt, I will go ahead and use that if it's stretchy enough. So in this case, I didn't have enough fabric left over from my t-shirt to make the bands. So I'm going to be using this material here. As you can see, it's ribbed and it's stretchy, and it's what most commonly is used for bands. As you can see here on my wrist cuff. So you really want to pay attention to the instructions on the pattern. So we're going to be cutting on fold. Also there is a grain, so make sure that the direction is right, and also there's a stretch, so make sure that the stretch is going the correct way. So the stretchiest side is going to be going long ways, and it will say on that little pattern piece where that stretch needs to be going. So we're going to grab our fabric, and I'm going to fold it in half. And once it's all situated, we're going to go ahead and cut out that pattern piece. And then we'll cut 2 of those armbands. And then we're also going to cut 1 neckband. There's 2 options for neckbands, just because there is a low cut and a high cut tank top option. So choose the one that you're going to be doing, and you'll cut out 1 of those neckbands. Okay, so now you are all done cutting things up. You should have a front and a back piece, a neckband, and 2 armbands. Okay, so now we're gonna grab the front and back pieces of the shirt. Take your front piece here, and you're gonna turn it around, and you're gonna face both pieces right sides together. So as you can see here, the right sides of my shirt are gonna be sandwiched in between each other, with the wrong sides facing out. And now we're just gonna line up those shoulder seams here. Grab some pins or some clips, and you're gonna clip it together here. And now we'll just go ahead and sew these side seams together here. You can use a serger or your zigzag stitch. Okay, so now that the shoulder seams are sewn together, we're gonna sew the side seams together. So go ahead and lay them on top of each other, and line up those sides. Once they're lined up, you'll clip or pin together. Okay, once those are all clipped up, you'll go ahead and sew them up. If you're using a regular machine to sew, go ahead and just backstitch when you start, sew, and then backstitch when you end. If you're using a serger, I'm going to show you a little trick on how to finish up the ends. Okay, you're going to sew like normal until you get pretty close to that edge. Once you get close, I'm usually use my hand crank to make sure I get as close to the edge as possible. Sorry, I know my hand is in the way, but you're going to lift up that foot, flip your shirt over, and then adjust it so that you put it to the edge again with those needles, making sure that's pretty close to that edge. And then you're going to bring down your foot, and then you're going to sew right over what you just sewed, and then come off. Okay, so now that we have the shoulder and the side seams, we're going to put on our bands. So what we're going to do is going to grab our neckband, we're going to fold it in half with right sides together, clip it, and then we're just going to do a straight stitch coming down here with a regular machine. Okay, so I went ahead and sewed it up. So now what we're going to do is open it up and lay that open and flat, and then fold it in half. So we're going to go ahead and clip it in half all the way around. So let's just start going around, folding it, lining up those raw edges, and clipping it in half. Okay, so once you're done clipping it, you're going to find your seam. As you can see here, this is where my seam is. So I'm going to know where that's at, clip it, and then I'm going to find the equal half of that. So kind of lay it down flat here and find where the equal side of that seam is. Okay, so now we are going to bring those two clips together and then find the other two sides of this band. Basically what we're doing is quartering off this neckband. So here is the equal side, and we're going to mark it with a clip and then find the other side and clip that there. So now I have 4 equal sides of this band, and we can take off these other clips here to make it easier to put it on the shirt. So for me, I like to place my band with my shirt wrong side out. So I'm going to go ahead and flip it and lay it down. Okay, so now we are going to find the middle of the shirt in the front and the back, and we're going to put the band on. So I like to start with where my seam is again. So here's my seam, and I'm going to lay it inside of the shirt with the raw edges lined up in the middle of the back, just like that. Now I'm going to find the middle of the front. Again, kind of flip it, make sure that it's not twisted, and then with the raw sides up, clip that in the middle of my shirt. So now I have both my front and the back clipped. So now I'm going to take those and kind of give it a little bit of a stretch and line up that side. So you don't want to line up where your shoulder seam is, but because your shirt is lower in the front than it is the back. So this is how I figure out the middle of here, is by just taking it, stretching it, lining it up, walking my fingers in, and then clipping it where that middle is. So again, take my front and my back. I'm going to stretch it until everything kind of lines up, and then walk my fingers in and clip it in place. Okay, so now that we've quartered it off, we're going to go ahead and add clips in between the clips that are already on there, just to make it easier when you're sewing. So just grab 2 clips right next to each other and give it a little stretch until everything lines up. Walk those fingers into the middle and clip it. So we'll do the same thing all the way around. Grab those 2 clips, stretch it, find the middle, clip it. Okay, so once you're done clipping it, you want to make sure that the fabric in between the bands are all kind of the same size, like those loops. Like this one here is a little bit bigger than all of the loops like in between my other clips. So you want to make sure that everything is nice and even. So if it is that case, you just kind of want to readjust that and make sure that they all are kind of the same. So I'm readjusting it. And then if it's like a little bit too big, you can always just kind of pull it a little bit. So here it's a little bit big, so what I'm going to do is just I'm going to pull it a little bit to the side, and that way it looks a little bit more even. Okay, so once you're happy with how it looks, you're going to go ahead and start to sew it. Okay, so the trick to put it on the band is to go slow, to stop frequently, and just kind of readjust everything to make sure everything's getting caught. There are 3 layers that you need to be sewing through, the 1 layer for your t-shirt and then the 2 layers for your band. So when you're stopping to readjust, you want to make sure that all 3 layers are laying flat on top of each other, so that they're all being sewn together. And also you always want to have a little bit of tension. As you can see, I always have a little bit of tension on there just to make sure that everything is lining up, because your band is always going to be smaller than your arm or neck hole. So you want to give a little bit of a tug, not too much and not too little. So it's just a tight or a slight tug to make sure that everything lines up well. So as you can see here, my shirt was a little bit bigger than my band, so I just gave a little bit of a tug so that everything kind of laid flat, just like here. A little bit of a tug, everything lays flat. And then once you get to the end, you're going to sew over a little bit and then come off. Alright, so now we have our neckband on, and now we're going to just do the same exact thing to our armholes. So again, we're just going to open this up, fold it in half all the way around, clip it. So I'm just doing the same thing where I'm folding it in half and clipping it, and then once I'm done, I'm going to quarter it off by finding all 4 equal corners. Okay, because this shirt is a racerback, the seams are going to be a little uneven. The shoulder seam and the armpit seam are going to be a little uneven. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to even that out a little bit, kind of bring the raw edges together until everything evens out a little bit. And then you can see here that is my armpit hole seam, and then I'm going to clip this part here that is kind of like more even. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my arm band, and I'm going to find the seam of it, and I'm going to add that to the seam of my armpit hole. And then I'm going to grab the clip that is equal to the seam, and I'm going to add that to my new clip here. As you can see, it's a little bit further to where that shoulder seam would be. Okay, so now we're just going to go ahead and do the same thing we did with the neck hole. Is we're just going to stretch it out, find that middle, walk my fingers in, and clip it. Okay, so now that we have all our clips on and it's adjusted to how we like it, we are going to go ahead and just sew it just like we did with the neckband. And because we used the hem of the previous shirt, we don't even need to hem it. So if you didn't use the hem of the previous shirt, you can go ahead and hem it now. But if not, we are all done. Alright, I hope you enjoyed that tutorial, and I'll see you next time.